The relationship between psionics and UFO contact bears a strong resemblance to Siddhis practiced in ancient India. Draconian ETs only eat live humans and have a preference for children, thousands of which go missing each year to feed Dracos. What's coming in the healthcare industry as suppressed healing technologies used in secret space programs are released to the general public? Dr. Stephen Greer is 100% sure that Luis Elizondo is a paid disinformation agent. Why did USAID and partner NGOs use up to $800 million of US funds to kidnap almost 200,000 children from Guatemala in secret human trafficking into the US? These stories and more in Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Welcome to the February 8 edition of Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review. Apologies if you hear any kind of coughing or anything like that. I'm still getting over some kind of bronchial infection. So I'm going to go through quite a series of stories today, and I'll try and keep it brief. So I want to begin with this tweet or X post by Jason Wild, who makes an important point concerning the relationship between psionics and UFO or UAP contact. That bears a very strong resemblance to the Siddhis, that is psychic abilities or psionics, practiced in ancient India. So the role of consciousness in the UFO phenomenon is critical. And I think he's absolutely correct that if we look at ancient India, the development of spiritual practices and cities and the yogis of the past, and their ability to be able to travel through space-time and tap into hidden dimensions, that really does have a lot of resemblance. So the great yogis of the past, the masters of the cities, were renowned for their ability to summon celestial beings, travel beyond space-time, and tap into hidden dimensions. So these abilities do have a strong resemblance to contact of the fifth kind, and rather than using technology, it's using the mind. So later today, Saturday, February 8th, there's going to be my monthly live briefing. So if you are not a Patreon subscriber, then this is an opportunity to get to do one of these live briefings at a discount. If you don't want to be a Patreon subscriber and still do the live briefing, you can register through PayPal. So that's going to be today at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we are going to be looking at the top 5 exopolitics stories that have appeared over the last month. And these certainly look at some of these new whistleblower testimonies that have come forward that really have shocked or rocked the UFO world. And we're talking more the conventional UFO world, people who are still kind of like into the nuts and bolts of the UFO phenomenon. So their testimonies have really rocked that particular world. Then I'm going to be looking at some of the hot geopolitical topics or stories that are happening around the planet and how they relate to exopolitics, some of the upcoming stories that I will be covering in Exopolitics Today in terms of interviews, and finally up to 1 hour of Q&A for those that have questions. Now, Alex Collier has been revealing a lot of information about the control system on the planet based on what he was told by Andromedan extraterrestrials. And he was, in one of his early lectures in the 1990s, he had something pretty startling to say about the Alpha Draconians only eating live humans and having a preference for children. So let's listen to this clip goes for about, it's not such a long clip, and I think you'll find it very informative.
Alpha Draconians are here now.
There are 1,833 of them that have been living underground between 100 and 200 miles beneath the surface. They've been here, some of them have been here a long, long time. They have lifespans that are thousands of years. They're carnivorous. They are not friendly to mankind, at least the ones that are here.
Are you saying carnivorous, they eat humans?
Yes. And they won't eat a dead human. It has to be alive at the time of the killing. Their preference is children. And we've been told, people say, well, you better not talk about the reptilians. Well, bull. Why not? According to the Andromedans, they're responsible for 31,712 children disappearing in the last 25 years from the United States. These children were food. And I'm supposed to just shut up and not say anything about it because people don't want to hear it? That's tough. That's tough. Westchester County, in the last 5 years, 3,000 children in the Westchester County, New York, have vanished without a trace. Where are they going? Why are we allowing this to happen? And why should people stay in denial about it?
Now, how are they able to do this? How are they able to do it? How are they able to come up out of this from underground and do it, or do they have?
There are tunneling systems everywhere. They're being helped by the Greys, and also there are groups within the higher echelon that are actually helping them acquire this.
So human beings are abducting the kids and getting them to the Greys, who in turn give them to the Alpha Draconians?
That's right. That's part of the deal. They won't come up as long as we feed them down there. You understand? It's about human beings selling themselves out. The echelon attitude here, the needs of the few outweigh the needs of humanity.
Okay, so there you have Alex Collier revealing some very disturbing news about the Alpha Draconians' eating habits and agreements that were made. And these agreements stretch back, I think, centuries, where the elite came up with agreements where they would arrange for children to be handed off to the Draco reptilians. In exchange, the Dracos would stay in their underground lairs and leave surface humanity largely alone. So very important, especially later on when I talk about USAID and the nearly 200,000 children that were kidnapped under USAID and brought into the United States. Why is that? So just keep in mind what Alex Collier had to say here for when I discuss that a little bit later. So let's move on. So Dr. Eric Davis gives a nuanced breakdown on the history and operations of the Majestic 12 group. His info is mostly accurate, though I found his understanding of successful alien technology reverse engineering programs is limited, as he shows no awareness of the Navy's Solar Warden program. So let's play this clip where you get to hear Eric Davis give his take on the Majestic 12 control group.
Yeah, that's right. MJ12, some version of it exists today, but it's not by that name. Code names change roughly every 3 years in the defense and intelligence operations. So that code name has gone away decades ago. So there's some modern incarnation of it operating. They don't. That's not their work has nothing to do with the Collins Elite or disclosure. That's not what they do. Their job is handling crash retrievals, reverse engineering studies of and HI or alien technologies that have been recovered. So I'm not aware that there's any linkage there with the Collins Elite. I think more than anything, the Collins Elite, which, like I said, is not an organized group, but just one individual here, maybe a couple of individuals here. And these guys are high-ranking individuals. They could either be generals, colonels, or senior executive service 1, 2, or 3 folks, or senior intelligence service 1, 2, or 3 folks. I don't know if they go as high as 4. If there's any of them at that level, and they don't work at cross purposes, and they don't coordinate with MJ12 because that's a compartmentalized program, and so that compartmentalized program is technically oriented. And the disclosure issue is not part of what that program is concerned about. That's a whole separate issue. And the government doesn't have a disclosure program anyway. And the Collins elite type folks, they just get in the middle. If they get read into something and they get in the middle of it, they'll either walk away from it, leave it alone, or they'll try to do whatever they can to kind of trip it up a few times or a few ways and cause a little bit of trouble. But if you cause too much trouble inside of a classified program, you usually get kicked out by security very rapidly.
Right. So there you have Eric Davis giving us a kind of pretty nuanced appreciation for these different organizations dealing with UFOs, NHI or extraterrestrial life, and that this Collins Elite and the Majestic 12 group are separate organizations. The Majestic 12 group tends to be more technically oriented, and they do not have a disclosure program. Now, as I said, I think that is Dr. Davis, he has a pretty good understanding of some elements of the control system, but the big kind of failing, as far as I'm aware of, is that he shows no awareness of successful alien reverse engineering programs or of the Navy's Solar Warden program, moon bases, Mars bases, etc. So here's a story from RT, and in it, Musk urges astronauts to lead Mars investigation. So he thinks that humans need to look at what is actually being seen on Mars in terms of the rover images or the orbital images of the surface of Mars. Now, this is where it's worth pointing out that, with the exception of the 1976 Viking mission, no NASA mission to Mars involving robotic rovers, landers, and orbiters investigated possible artificial structures or life on Mars. So that will change when SpaceX starts sending astronauts to Mars, and the first scheduled landing, or the first kind of time window for this to happen, is 2028. And that is if everything goes right with SpaceX testing, developing its Starship and launching up to 5 Starship missions to Mars in 2026. Here is an update from JP, Antigravity Spacecraft with an organic consciousness that pairs with pilots. So this is a very significant update because it does show that there has been an ongoing program to match the DNA and the consciousness of military pilots or military personnel with a particular spacecraft that they can then fly with their mind. So that's in the update that was just released, that is now available on exopolitics.org and various channels. And it is, I think, a very significant development because now we understand that the military has not only kind of like reverse engineered spacecraft that is developed with advanced technologies that can be deployed in the field or in military conflicts, but also they have pilots who have been trained whose consciousness and DNA matches that of the craft. So we're talking there about some advanced extraterrestrial technology which has been kind of like loaned out to humans. Okay, so here is a interview I did with Emilio Ortiz, who is has a kind of popular podcast in that appeals to a wide audience. I believe he's based in South America, but spends a bit of time in Spain. And definitely he has a really good grasp of a lot of exopolitical issues, and so he wanted to have me do a deep dive into what's happening in Antarctica, hidden alien bases and so forth. So you could just go to his channel, Emilio Ortiz, Ortiz, and you will find his interview with me that was released on February 1st of this year. I'm very pleased to announce the official launch of the Galactic Encounters 3 conference that will be held on August 2nd, 3rd, and 5th and 6th in 2 separate and identical sessions at a lovely French resort in Valsoyo. Sessions will be conducted with professional simultaneous translation from French and English. And this is the official trailer to the conference. So let me play this for you. I won't include the sound. So you get to kind of like get an idea of some of the speakers that will be there. So this is the third in a series of conferences that is being organized in France that have some very prominent contactees discussing their experiences and also revealing information about secret space programs. So this is here. You have Paul Stonehill, who's a very famous Russian UFO researcher. JP will also be there. JP was there last year, but he was incognito, but this time he will be appearing, but he'll be wearing his helmet. And he does that just because he needs to protect his identity. Eric Zurcher, I'm not familiar with him, a historian, specialist of contact of different kinds. Elena Danan, I think, doesn't need an introduction. You're all familiar with her work. She's going to talk about the Galactic Federation of Worlds. And this bloke, I think you all know him. So I will be talking about China's secret space program and kind of recent developments there. Tony Rodriguez, I think he's going to be talking about some of his more recent research concerning remote viewing and the kidnapping of children. And Dan Willis will be talking about his research into crystal technologies. So I think that gives you an idea of the speaker lineup at this event, Galactic Encounters, or in French, Rencontres Galactiques 3. And so you can go and click my link there if you want to get it. If you want to get more information, you can just click my link here, and that will give you more information about this upcoming conference. Oh, and here's the link. So the link to the conference, there it is, rencontres-galactiques.fr. So this is a story that appeared in globalintelhub.com. And this article, I think, is very helpful for giving us an idea of how healthcare is going to be transformed with the coming disclosures. And there's going to be a rapid and massive paradigm shift coming. So he's talking about macro super cycle trends in healthcare. The author of the blog is someone who is very familiar with investment technologies, and so he's turning his attention to what is going to be happening with the global healthcare and pharmaceutical industry as we have disclosure and secret space program technologies are released to the world. And that, of course, includes medbeds and other alternative healing technologies that are going to be released through innovative companies such as SpaceX, to facilitate space travel and colonization. I mean, this is the plan, because obviously there is a need now for SpaceX to develop these kinds of advanced healing technologies because of their plan to establish colonies on Mars. And clearly you don't want to send colonists to Mars and rely on pharmaceutical products. They can't. That's not going to really work that well at all. So what is needed is these companies will be able to have breakthroughs in some of these advanced healing technologies like medbeds, and take them with them on the spacecraft to Mars. So I think this is kind of like why this kind of health industry revolution is inevitable. All right. Well, here's something that I thought was very, very interesting. This is a story on RT. FBI's UFO hunters fear Trump layoffs. So the interesting thing is that what's emerged is that the FBI has been conducting UFO investigations. They did set up a secret unit to investigate UFOs, and that members of that unit were also part of this group of FBI agents who were involved in the January 6th witch hunts, which was clearly a highly partisan endeavour. They went after people who really did nothing wrong other than just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And people ended up spending long periods in prison and pleading guilty to crimes of just trespass into the US Congress. And of course, it's controversial. People think that this was an insurrection. Well, I think an insurrection is very different to people protesting. Okay, so here is the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection conferences that are going to be happening this year. They're going to be discussing extraterrestrial contact. Let me play the video clip. Here we go. So it goes for about 3 minutes.
JFK 2024 was beyond my wildest dreams. Each year, it's got bigger and bigger.
This year, the caliber of all the speakers and everything, thus far, it's been the best one ever.
The Skywatch was an incredible time.
When that happened, when Elena brought, are you serious?
The momentous sort of moment for humanity. And me, myself, I can vouch for what I saw.
Danny had asked me a few months ago, could Thorhan, my contact in the Galactic Federation of Worlds, could he bring spaceships over the hotel? And at the precise moment, precise location, we had a show of extraterrestrial scout ships flying in formation. There were 1,000 people, 1,000 witnesses, ships scattering, forming back. It was amazing, and we had a TR-3B.
And that meant that the Earth Alliance was coordinating with the Galactic Federation.
When these craft came, they were moving at very high speeds with no sound, no trails.
And then the roar of the crowd, the emotions, the craft came down. You could feel everyone there just raising their hearts, and they couldn't believe it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Absolutely incredible. Definitely recommend it for sure.
The best disclosure conference in the world.
This was the best 3 days of my entire life. I'm still buzzing.
The realization that it is all real.
All right, so there you've got an idea of the kind of quality of the last Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection conference that was held in Westminster, Colorado. So the next Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection will be held in Eastbourne, the United Kingdom, from May 10 and 11. And the second is going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, September 19 to 21. Both feature a stellar cast of speakers and contactees and a sky watching event, which, as you saw, really is not to be missed. So I hope to see you there. I will be there along with JP, Elena Danan, Tony Rodriguez, and there is going to be quite a few surprises as well. And I believe Alex Collier is also going to be attending the Charlotte event, so he's always worth watching. Here's a interview that JP did with Danny Henderson on her channel, where she got him to discuss the intergenerational elements in his contact experiences, including his father, his own childhood experiences, and how the men in black knew he was contacted by extraterrestrials and tried to debrief him on what happened, his summoning technique, etc., upon his return from Brazil in 2008. That's always worth keeping in mind, that the men in black knew that JP had a contact experience in Brazil, and when he returned to the United States, they were ready to meet him and debrief him. That's very, very interesting. Humanity's future regarding extraterrestrial disclosure, artificial intelligence, and a micronova event. Here's an interview I did with Miriam Delicado. So Miriam discusses her experiences with these tall, blonde extraterrestrials and how she was approached by men in black to recruit her. And in this interview, she discusses recent developments concerning UFO sightings, NHI, non-human intelligence craft, how mystery drones are being used to distract the public, the Trump administration's likelihood to promote ET disclosure, the use of psionics to summon and shoot down ET spacecraft, and new whistleblowers promoting a limited hangout and the Stargate AI project. So quite a range of topics we discussed, and I think when it comes to what lies ahead over the next few months, it's well worth considering everything Miriam has to say, because I think it is going to be a very challenging few months ahead. Okay, so here's something from Dr. Stephen Greer, who's 100% certain that Luis Elizondo is a paid disinformation agent. So that's quite a charge to make. Some will dismiss Greer's assessment as sour grapes over Elizondo's rapid rise to center stage of the UFO phenomenon since 2017. But I think Greer makes a very important point here, that there has been an active psychological warfare program that's been run by the military intelligence community, not just in the US, but all Five Eyes countries, to confuse and distract the public over UFOs. Luis Elizondo, by his own admission, has a military intelligence background and has made public statements about a imminent UAP threat, or he's at least described UAPs as a threat, and he's created a context around it that this is an imminent issue to deal with. So Greer's assessment is well worth considering. So let me play a little bit of that for
meetings to provide information initially. And I know others are doing that. Unfortunately, some of the others doing it are known counterintelligence operatives who are providing false information. So I, briefly had a quick chat with Don Jr. at a meeting, and he had been taken in by a known counterintelligence person named Lou Elizondo, who is someone working to intercept these whistleblowers and then turn.
You seem to be a big fan of his. It's what I hear.
No, Elizondo is a paid disinformation person. And
how convinced are you of that?
100%. I have an email from the top guy at the CIA who was there when Ronald Reagan wanted to know about this when he was running for governor, who was a very young postdoc, and he immediately wrote and said this is what he's doing. Now, recently, Mr. Elizondo has started saying more correct information. Initially, he said, all of these objects out here, we don't know what they are or how they fly. Now he's admitting we have the man-made ones. And I'll tell you, the mass majority of the UFOs people see, they're not from outer space. They're not alien. They're ours. But they have dangerously been used in false flag operations and deceptive operations what the Pentagon calls a deceptive, indication and warning, or deceptive INW. The pop culture would be false flag, which means you just set up a decoy, you set up a false operation. So that was his primary responsibility.
Okay, well, I think you get an idea of Stephen Greer's views on Lou Elizondo, and I would agree that anyone that's talking about just crash retrieval operations without successful reverse engineering of those, that's kind of like a limited hangout. Now, as Greer has said, Elizondo has started to talk more about some craft that have been successfully reverse engineered. I'm not familiar with that, but Greer believes or has seen Elizondo starting to talk about that, and so that's a plus. But overall, Greer believes because Elizondo is pretty laser focused on UFOs or UAPs being a national security threat, and that this is an issue that really has to be dealt with immediately. And Greer's opinion is that no genuine extraterrestrial civilization is aggressive or manipulative in any way. Then, in his view, Elizondo is as he said, a paid disinformation agent. I mean, that's a pretty tough stance to take. I have read Elizondo's book, Imminent. It seemed to be pretty genuine. As far as I could tell, he was a guy that was very interested in UFOs, that was given a kind of a limited mandate to study and investigate them, but just hit roadblocks everywhere when he tried to understand what was happening in the unacknowledged special access program. So I don't think he's been read into all of this, but Greer, he's definitely been doing this for 30 years now, so his opinion is well worth considering. Okay, here's another short video clip on Stephen Greer's intel on both the JFK and RFK assassinations is accurate. So this is a short clip, about a minute and a half. So let me play that for you.
Jack Kennedy was killed because he was going after this issue to get it back under control, the UAP issue. So, and I'm pretty certain that Robert Kennedy was killed for the same reason.
You think he was killed for this reason?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I have a document. It's an interesting letter that it's in our archive. Not in here. It's in our archive from Bobby Kennedy Sr. when he was running for president in '68, and it was like about 30 days before they killed him. And it's a letter. It's kind of funny. It's archaically written. Well, it's the '60s, right? And it says, I'm paraphrasing here, but I can get you a copy of it. He says, I'm a card-carrying member of the Amalgamated Flying Saucer Association of America. This is Bobby Kennedy writing this. And I'm very eager to do this. This is very important. He really wanted to get to the bottom of it because he knew that his brother, or JFK, President Kennedy, had been killed trying to get to the bottom of this and was also planning to really clean house at the CIA. So Bobby Kennedy writes this. 30 days later, he's dead. And not long ago, I've provided that to his family, to his Bobby Kennedy's family. And actually, they had never seen this letter. I said, well, they say, how do you have it? Well, I said, it's what I have. I have this vast archive. And it's authentic. And so this goes back a long time. A lot of American history that people think they know, they don't. Whether any of that comes out, I'm sort of skeptical, actually. I'm not even sure that the files that they have.
Okay, so there is Stephen Greer talking about the Kennedy assassinations and the link to UFOs, and I think he's absolutely correct. I discussed all of that in my 2013 book, Kennedy's Last Stand, which is still very, very relevant. And I think this release of JFK files is going to be, assassination files is going to kind of cast much more light on what's going on. Okay, so now we return back to that issue I raised earlier concerning Alex Collier and the Draco reptilians eating children. So this is something that's been recently learned, and that is that the US Agency for International Development and partner NGOs used up to $800 million of US funds to kidnap almost 200,000 children from Guatemala in secret human trafficking into the US. So this is a story that broke on Redacted. So Clayton Morris, he interviewed Ryan Matter, who is an expert on child trafficking around the world and in Guatemala. And he exposed this data that USAID was involved in this kind of child trafficking. And that overall there was $800 million in funding used to kidnap 200,000 children to bring them into the US. So why is that? Well, this is where I speculated. This is where I came up with some scenarios. So number one, children sold off into high-level US pedophile networks that would compromise public officials at parties for blackmail purposes. So this is something that was described in the book, The Franklin Cover-Up. Children used in satanic blood sacrifice rituals to compromise public officials who are forced to participate in order to be promoted into higher deep state positions. So, again, the Franklin cover-up, David Icke has also talked about this. And here, number three, children used as a live food source for Draco reptilian ETs who reached agreements with deep state cabals centuries ago not to expose themselves to the general public. So this is where I think we get an explanation for why so many children are kidnapped from third world countries like Guatemala, brought into the US, that some of them are being siphoned off to be used, to be handed off to these Draco reptilians as a food source, which is very, very disturbing. Now, there should be a fourth option, which I didn't include, and that is the development of psionic abilities. That would be another reason that they're kidnapping children, bringing them into the United States, that some of these children have very highly developed psionic abilities. So that should be number four. So I'm very happy to announce my next big webinar. That's the panel webinar. I do them once every 2 months. And this one is going to be on the topic of dilemma of a Star Trek future and challenge to human sovereignty. So I am going to be looking closely at the historic development of this Star Trek future, where these positive extraterrestrials, the Nordics, have been cultivating humanity to be allies, and the extent to which this is actually a very helpful thing, but also some of the concerns and the challenges posed to that, to long-term human sovereignty. So that is something that I think is going to be very, very significant. I have two guests that will be part of the panel discussion, and also part of the Q&A that follows the panel. That is George Kavasilis, who's talked extensively about a returning group of Jedi admirals that are part of the Solar Warden program, and also Sarah Bressman-Cosme, who's interviewed hundreds of QHHT clients who've told her some very interesting information about where we are heading as a planet. So that's going to be February 22nd, 2025. The whole thing will run for about 5 hours. So I think you will enjoy this one, and I look forward to doing my presentation and then working with George and Sarah to kind of like go into the minutiae of this dilemma posed by a Star Trek future, and how that relates to human sovereignty. So that's it. As I said, later on today, I do have my monthly briefing. So for those that have time, then I would definitely recommend joining, and you can get a detailed breakdown of the last month's Exopolitics news. So thank you for watching. And again, thank you for having patience with me with this persistent cough. Hopefully we'll get rid of it by next week. So thank you and aloha.
You have been listening to Exopolitics today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.